Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to our program this morning. You met Carol Cain last Sunday. She's the administrator of the WASP World War II National Museum. And she was here talking about the history of the WASP. And we have so much more to tell you that we had to invite her to come back. And one of the things that we're going to talk to you about are the individual women. This is a group of women that were tough and determined, but individually they had such fascinating stories. And one of the things that I have enjoyed through the years is reading books about the WASP, mostly written by the WASP. But Tom Brokaw did the foreword on the Yankee Doodle Girls, and this is what he said: "We're just now beginning to fully appreciate the vital role of women in the World War II effort, and the daring, gifted women of the WASP program who were absolutely critical to the success of air warfare. I still marvel at their contribution." And then, of course, you know that Tom Brokaw wrote The Greatest Generation about the World War II generation, both male and female. And Carol, thank you so much for coming back today. And let's continue the WASP story and tell us a little bit. Now, every year we have a reunion.
Right.
And we're also connected with all the other military museums across Texas, right?
Right. Our homecoming is the Saturday before Memorial Day. And it is a day to have the WASP come back to Avenger Field where they trained and to celebrate not just their accomplishments, but to celebrate the effect and the influence that they have on women today and the doors that they opened for women in aviation.
And you always have current women in aviation there who say, "You open the doors for us."
Exactly. This year it was wonderful. Major Caroline Jensen was our featured speaker at our luncheon. There were 17 WASP that came back to Avenger
89 up.
Right. 86 was the youngest one.
86.
The surviving WASP ages are 86 to 101. And they live all over the world. There are WASP who live in Hawaii. There are a couple in Europe. One became a nun, and she was in France. There are 2 surviving WASP who live in Australia. So these women have made careers and lives for themselves all over the world. But 17 came back for homecoming this year. Major Caroline Jensen was our featured speaker, and she is the first Thunderbird pilot, and she is number 3 right-wing Thunderbird pilot, and she came back and spent the day with us. And to each of these 17 WASP that were there, she looked them individually in the eye and said, "If it were not for what you did in World War II, I would not be doing what I'm doing today." This last week, we had Wally Funk, who was in the Mercury 13 program at NASA, and that was the program where they first started bringing women into our space program. And they went through all of the testing that the men did, but then they decided not to use them in the Mercury program. A lot of them were disqualified for when the women did join the NASA program. And Wally was one. Her age prohibited her from going back and flying a later mission. So she never was.
They wanted her to have a follow-up, so she could have gone to this one. But
and I can't remember his name, and I apologize for that. But the British man who is doing the private space launches, Wally is going to be on the first one of those. And it's supposedly this private spacecraft
Enterprise
will fly this next year. So she is looking forward to her. She has kept herself in shape. She is a flight instructor in the Dallas area now, and so and she brought with her 2 women pilots. One is not only a pilot, but she is an aeronautical engineer, and she is with a company in California, and she designs the drone. I'm just having a mental block. She designs the drones that our military is using today in the Middle East.
And one of the things you asked her was, do you sit mostly at a drafting table, or do you?
Yes, we had lunch for them at the museum, and I said, well, now, do you sit at a drafting table to do your job, or are you like with Rosie the Riveter out on the line? And she goes, well, first of all, we don't have drafting tables anymore. We use computers. And secondly, when we instigate new programs, predator drones, that's the word that got away from me, the predator drone. When they instigate new programs into the predator drone, she does actually go to the assembly line to make sure that the new design is implemented into the aircraft. So this is a woman who's a pilot, and she does all aspects of designing these state-of-the-art drones. But back to homecoming, we had a female pilot who flies a 747 for UPS. She brought her private plane to homecoming this year. We had Julia Wood, who flew in a little Stearman, and she is a professional airline pilot, but she also flies. She's one of the pilots for Kavanaugh Air Museum in the Dallas area.
One of the things that I want you to talk about when we come back after the break is their reactions to our museum and what all we have in it, because you've been able to assemble all of these planes that they actually flew in World War II, and there was several kinds that they flew. And also, I want you to talk a little bit more about them individually. So we're going to have to take a break right now, but we'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation. Join us in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.